Steve Balbi. Thanks so much for joining us on the Bass Bass channel.
No worries, David. Thanks for the invite.
I want to kick off straight away with your upcoming album.
Yeah.
New release called Breakdown.
Yep.
Now, people watching this, especially being a bass guitar channel, will probably know you as the bass player from Noiseworks. But you're a singer, composer, producer, musical theatre performer, and multi-instrumentalist. You're like Australia's version of Prince, right? Is there anything on this album that you've not done?
No, I didn't do the artwork.
Right, okay. But you've played everything?
I didn't play drums on this record. I played drums on the previous one because it was in COVID and I couldn't hire a drummer, so I had no choice.
Okay, cool.
And that was great. I've always wanted to play drums, but there's, I'm fair to middling, so, there's always, there's some really great players in my universe,
So who did you bring in?
On this record, a new cat, really super cool dude, a guy called Tully Ryan. Yeah, he comes with his own tea towels, which is wonderful. And he just gets it. He's kind of a jazz bow, but he gets just playing a tom, and a cymbal. And he's very, very broad-minded. I was thinking this morning about that kind of muso and about the kind of muso I'm not. I'm not a musician, really. I just make shit up, I just like to try things, but I really admire those people, and I feel very blessed to be able to call on people that can really play, and then me dumb them down to the point of, but there's something really super cool about a drummer that, for instance, Tully Ryan, I'm going to give him a rap here. I was producing a band called Scar. It's a punk band. Had this song, super up tempo, like, I reckon 99% of drummers would have come in and just gone, hit it hard, And Tully came in and played this sort of dance feel. Just changed the whole coolness of the recording. So, to have that skill and to be able to adapt it in a creative way, I mean, when you find cats like that, it's priceless. Tully, love you, man.
Fantastic. So other albums, you've released Black Rainbow in 2013, and I Think I Know For Sure in 2020.
Yeah.
So along with this one, Breakdown, how is this one different to the other albums?
I think like Black Rainbow was a lot more organic, probably coming from, I think my songs come from the same place, but it was very organic, sort of, sounding. I Think I Know For Sure during COVID, I had two mics, as I was in between studios, I had two mics and a toy drum kit and a guitar and a bass and a mic pre. So it's a really shitty sounding record, purposely sort of just lo-fi, which is great. And this record, I sort of went and I used a little bit more. I got some new toys, like the MK, the Machina here, and I sort of embraced a little bit more. I was going to make it more in the box, a little bit more programmed, but then I didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel like it was really me, so I just kept sort of, adding some guitars and so it's a little bit broader, but it's a little bit more, in parts, modern sounding. But also, there's the last song I contributed for the record was, just a string thing. So, yeah, I don't know what I do really. I don't really care. I kind of just make music that I feel like I need to make for myself.
Yeah.
Hopefully people like it.
Yeah, perfect. So the title Breakdown, is there a story behind choosing that?
I just think it's sort of where we're at, humanity sort of, I think it feel like it's breaking down, hopefully to rebuild itself like any cycle, but I feel like we're falling, nobody's quite sure what to hold on to. you know, everything's relevant, but nothing means anything, you know. It's a weird place, so that's why I called it Breakdown.
It is, you're right. It's a very strange time at the moment.
Not to be negative, I think,
Yeah.
you know, these things are great. I know in my life, you know, my breakdown, my war, my, you know, demise was the beginning of this incredible life I have today, 25 years on, you know, so it's just life, isn't it? Yeah.
As you say, cycle, yeah. There's a description on your website that mentions Dylan, Bowie, Radiohead as part of the kaleidoscope of your sound.
Yeah.
Particularly with the last album, I heard masses of like Bowie and Beatles in there as well.
Yeah.
How would you describe your music?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you know, you kind of are what you eat, and then you add a little bit of something to it. You know, fuck, I love Radiohead, but I can't sing like Tom York. You know, so, and not that he would want to, but he can't sing like me. So it's sort of like, you know, those influences. I guess, you know, if you were born in Italy, you would speak Italian. You know, so I grew up listening to the Beatles, Bowie, Dylan, and grew to discover, you know, Radiohead. And the thing I love about them is they don't stop moving. You know, I've got to say, it's my palette is so broad. You know, there's a song by 21 Pilots off their new current record called Vignette. Amazing piece of music. Totally incredible. You know, and I've been going back into buying a lot of analog gear because I love the sound. There's definitely a sound. You know, I've A-B'd some of my earlier records, even the Electric Hippies recorded on tape, you know, with a lot less experience back then, but it sounds better than the shit I'm doing now, you know, just plugging into, you know, digital gear. So I've been buying a lot of, you know, front end stuff for my colour just to bring that back. And I've totally lost my train of thought. Too much pot smoking back in the day, I think.
We're talking about describing your music. That's where we're at. But,
that's right.
I think you've done.
So so I guess I don't really know how to describe it. I think I've developed a sound, though. Yeah. I think I have developed a, you know, sound. That's right. And I was talking about my palette being so broad, you know, and I love Sticky Fingers, you know, as an Australian act. I think they're really one of the, you know, they've been able to traverse so many different sort of genres and styles and keeping a modern sounding production with really kind of still raw vocals and guitars, and there's still a little bit of Lad Newtown in it, you know. It's sort of, so I think you just keep making records and everything you put down, you know, this, I'm not saying you, I'm saying everything I put down, I need to believe in, I need to back it. And because I don't make music from my brain, I make it purely from instinct. And when something's finished, my instinct tells me that's done. So I don't, if I'm sitting there thinking over a part or a song for too long, let's move on.
Yeah. And so the album release is happening August 24th?
Yeah.
At the Opera House?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Have you played there before?
I have. I released Black Rainbow there. I did a couple of nights there, whenever that was, 10 years ago. And that was fantastic. It was a lot easier to sell tickets those days, I must say. You know, our cultures just seems to have changed a little bit. But it's cool. I'm looking forward to it. I've got a wonderful lineup, great band, and I'm going to sort of do a lot of the new record, but I'm also going to, you know, trip around, do some classics, and yeah, I'm very excited.
Fantastic. Everyone should go and check it out. Everyone should check out the new album when it comes out. So it's released on 24th of August as well? Or? Yeah? Okay. So that's the album release date and the launch at the Opera House. Cool. So we'll move on. And I wanted to ask about, you do some work mentoring musicians. Tell me about that.
I'm not sure about mentoring, but I produce a lot of bands. when I say a lot of bands, I don't make my... I'm not a producer that will, record anyone with a budget. I'm quite the opposite, actually. If I really connect and feel like I can creatively contribute, I'll do it. There's a band at the moment, young lads, Camino Gold. I remember hearing them a bunch of years ago, and incredible voice. They were very, very embryonic when I heard them. They'd start a song and there'd be this promise, and this voice would start, and you go, oh my, wow, hang on. Didn't quite get you there. And I thought, I can contribute to that. I know how to teach them how to understand what the payoff is and how to actually, involve people in the songs. And it's been a wonderful collaboration, Triple J getting onto them now. And I believe in these guys. I think they're going to blow up. So, yeah, an Indigenous artist called Radical Sun that I picked up in... not picked up, that's kind of the wrong word, but I came across him and I was doing some work for an Aboriginal refuge. And this guy, man, came in, he's a big boy, dreads, mean-looking cat. I asked him if he wrote songs, and he sort of groaned and mumbled and pulled out of these pages of writings and picked up a page. I said, do you want to sing it to me? And he said, yeah. And he's just looked at me, he's gone, white cunts, just like in my face. And I was like, wow. This amazing rap tone. And then as we went along, I wanted to work with him. He was imposing and incredible and, really powerful lyricist. And as we went down the road, I discovered he had this most beautiful voice, one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard, whether it's falsetto or this deep sound, and such a soul singer. It was incredible. So I made a record with him, and then we parted ways, and he went off, and he called me up recently and just to thank me for, it kind of saved his life. He was kind of headed for jail. I didn't save his life, music saved his life, and he wanted to make another record, so I'm all in there, and I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. I love the studio. It's probably my happiest place.
You did another interview a couple of years ago with Chris Goodrope for the Dream into Success channel, and that was a great interview, and he covered a lot of stuff that there's a lot of your history and stuff like that, and I'm going to try not to cover too much of the same ground, and I'd encourage other people to go and watch that interview because that was amazing. But in that interview, you said that you're not a bass player, and you got stuck playing bass. So how did you start with music, and how did you get stuck playing bass?
Yeah, I was sort of, there's evidence, I've there's picked photographs of me at 4 and 5 and, with guitar in my hand. And I got my first proper guitar, I think, at about 7. And that's all I did. And I think it was 6 lessons. I don't think I learnt very much, but I did that all the time. I just did it. I just loved it. There was something in it that resonated with me, and that's. I remember one of my fondest moments of being a kid was I used to go and sit in the driveway on the bricks in the sun, and I used to dream, and I just used to daydream there. And I remember writing my first song on the driveway in the sun on the bricks, and it's called Mary Jane. And it was a love song. I didn't even know love existed, But and I've always done that. That's been my thing. And I remember, I had a bunch of friends, and we were all, discovering teenagehood, and we'd jam at different times, and occasionally, we wouldn't have a bass player, so I'd just get a guitar, turn the bass down, and play a little bit of bottom end on bassy sounding guitar. And then I left school, and I tried to sort of edit it. driving down the military road with a guy called Mick Buckley, and we pulled in for a beer at Mossman Hotel, and he got us a gig. And we didn't have a band, you know, but he called up a guitar player friend, and I said, I'll play bass. There's a band called Rupert B, so I just sort of, you know, started playing bass there. Still all the while just doing what I was meant to do, you know, write songs. And then at one of those Rupert B gigs, a dude called Kevin Borich saw me play and asked me to play bass with him, become pro. And so I did that. And from there, you know, without going into the dark part of that story, from there, a guy called Stuart Fraser, I ran into. He was in a band called Cyril B. Bunter, playing with Kevin Borich, and he saw me playing, and he had a band with a guy called John Stevens and Kevin Nickel. They were doing a recording. They asked me to come and record with them, and which I did. And then they proceeded for the next year, coming to my house, rolling big fat spliffs, trying to convince me to join their band. But I had a band with Justin Stanley, just doing that. And after a while, we decided they got so painful. Stu, I remember Stewie sitting there rolling a big fat joint. He's gone, hey, I'm not going to ask you to join our band. Can we join your band? And we kind of laughed it off. And I said, look, let's have a jam, maybe write some songs. But my brother's got to come. Justin's got to come. So Justin was a drummer at that point, but he's gone, I'll play keyboards, you know. So we just got together in a rehearsal room, you know. I think the first song we jammed on was a song called White Room. And it felt really good. It did have a thing about it, you know. So we thought, no harm in writing some songs. We wrote some songs, apparently wrote a few decent ones that, you know, the record company liked, and we had management, and John brought in Michael Browning. Before you know it, we had a record deal, and then before you know that, we had a hit. And that's where I say I got sort of stuck on bass. Even though I'd only play bass at the shows, and I'd go home and I'd just keep doing that's all I ever did, you know.
So not bad for a band who had a guitarist stuck on bass and a drummer stuck on keys.
Yeah, well, that's it, you know. I think, and you know, to me, there's a lot of the, you know, creativity came from that. I mean, you were talking about the bass part in Touch. Most bass players don't get that right. It's a guitar part on bass. It's an octave with a delay and a compressor. It's kind of the edge, like we were doing in the 80s. And I thought, well, why don't I do on bass what Edge does on guitar? So it's a jing, jicka, 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 jing, this whole thing, you know. And just sort of wanted to be a guitar player.
Oh, it worked out.
Cheers.
It worked out. And one thing that you mentioned in the interview, which I thought was with Chris, which is worth touching on, you essentially got kicked out of school for being into music.
Yeah. Great moment. Amazing moment. Yeah.
And your dad supported you through that.
Yeah, well, look, you know, being a dad and you know, taught me a lot about supporting your kids, because I was playing in pubs. You know, this is in year 10, so this all happened at the end, or midway through term 2. And the principal called my dad in saying, look, he's so distracted. He often doesn't come to school. I'd be at home or somewhere, mate's place, doing that. And I was playing in pubs a couple of nights a week. The ultimatum was, the principal there, Dad here, me, and he said, look, Stephen needs to focus on school, forget the music thing, at least until after school. If he can do that, if he can manage to do that, he's welcome to come back. If not, he's just, we're going to have to let you go. And I sat there, and my dad, it seemed like an eternity, but Dad just sat there and looked at the principal and said, oh, looks like he's not coming back. I walked out of school. I didn't even get my bag. We just left. And he said, over to you.
Wow.
And, you know, I worked. It wasn't hard for me because that's all I wanted to do. But then I tried to be more professional about it. I'd get the Herald and I'd look for ads in the paper. And that's how I met Justin, because I found this ad, songwriter wants songwriter to work with, has studio. So I've gone, oh, it sounds good. Turned up at this guy's place. I'm walking down the street and there's this tall, lanky dude walking down the street, and we stopped at this house. I said, you going in there? He'd answered the ad as well. And that's when I met Justin Stanley, my soul music brother.
Wow.
We went in there, wrote a couple of songs with that dude, and it wasn't really good, and we stuck together.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing.
So when you and Justin decided that it wasn't working in Noiseworks for you, how did the rest of the band take that?
Well, you need a little bit of backstory to that. Because, you know, okay, so I mentioned that Justin and I were writing together, starting a band when I met Stewie, and then we ended up forming Noiseworks and it took off. You know, it's interesting, you know, it's very rare where absolute sort of, you know, five guys can actually, you know, work equally together. I felt like a lot of Noiseworks material, a lot of Noiseworks fans will hate me for saying this, but I think it was, we wrote some good songs, but we didn't write any great songs. I think Touch is the closest thing to a great song, because it's sort of lyrically, it's timeless. Yeah, and so it came to the third record, and Justin and I had virtually recorded the previous record, all the demos, and then we got Chris Kimsey to come in, who'd produced Rolling Stones and lots of big records, and he pretty much re-recorded our demos in a better studio. And Justin and I thought, you know, and the band, we thought, well, we can do this ourselves, you know. And we approached the record label, and they agreed. They were going to save $100,000 and producer, but at the end of the day, it was going to be their call whether the record was passed. You know, we delivered the record, the third album, and they loved it, but they thought we were a hit short. And they decided then and there. I remember being in a meeting at Sony that we're going to send John Stevens and Stuart Fraser to America to write with hit writers. And I remember saying, it's a kiss of death. We'll just write more songs. But it got swept away, and that's the way it was going to happen. Stewie Fraser called me up and said, man, you're the sort of songwriter, dude. Why don't you go? And I said, no, not my thing. He said, it's cool, Stewie. You know, go and write us a hit, you know. In the meantime, Justin and I were in our we had a semi-detached home in it's sort of an office space in Francis Street, East Sydney. We had a Porter studio, 4-track Porter studio. We built this because it was very close quarters to neighbours, and we built this sort of booth that stood about this high, and we had lead carpet over it, and that's where we'd do our vocals, you know, tucked in there, smoking cigarettes, doing vocals. And we just felt it was a little bit unfair. We were spending thousands of dollars on hit writers in America, and we were stuck in here trying to write the hit. So I remember going up to see Michael Browning upstairs one morning, and I said, man, do your deal. What sort of song do you want? If we can write it, buy us a week in the studio. And he said, rock and roll, cars, chicks. Tacky, right? Anyway, went downstairs, picked up the guitar, went, you know. Right, and then we start. We wrote that song. The story goes, I tell the story, we wrote that song in about 20 minutes, but the truth is we probably wrote it in about 40 minutes. Went upstairs and I played it to him on acoustic guitar. He flipped out. He said, "That's it." So it was kind of like a joke for us. It was, but he bought us the week in the studio and we recorded that song and another one called "Don't Lead Me On" and a bunch of other songs that we didn't know at the time, but it was the beginning of the Electric Hippies. And that was a kiss of death for Noiseworks, because we loved that time in the studio together. Yeah. It was the most exciting thing. It's where we always wanted to be. Yeah. And it was a big realization. And, the boys came back from America and it was show and tell time and they had 12 songs and we had about 8 songs, and the 2 songs that Sony picked were our 2 songs, and Hot Chili Woman took our record to #1. It was the only #1 we had. I'm a little bit embarrassed about that song, but it was kind of, the cat was out of the bag. I had no control over it, it was just written to buy ourselves some time. And a lot of people have fun on that song, so that's cool. It's got its place, But, so then we went on tour. It was a sold-out tour. Justin and I were in our hotel room one night after a show, and we always had our little dictaphones recording and jamming. And to be honest, we were on ecstasy that night, jamming away. And it's like, yeah. And Justin goes, we stop a jam, and he just goes, "Oh, I wish music could be like this all the time." And I answered him, I said, "Yeah, it can be. Let's leave the band." We freaked out. Oh, man, And we eventually went to bed and woke up the next day. Both had rooms at the end of this hallway and sunlight was coming in through the windows, and we both sort of got out of bed, drugs are weird, at the same time, standing at the end of the hallway, and we walked together just like we first met, right? Yeah. And went, "Yeah, let's do it." So, it was a big deal leaving that business. It was a big business, and it just had to be done. I think you're only on the planet for a short time in the scheme of things, and I think you need to be authentic. Well, I do anyway. I needed to be authentic, and I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I just wanted to be in a place like this, making music, and we left the band, and it was a great decision, and I love the fact that I was in Noiseworks, and, there was a lot of bullshit that happened after that, just through being young and our egos being out of control and being young and hurt, but we're over that now, and it's really cool, and it all makes sense,
Yeah. And you have, got back together and played again, and
we
another
have
album, and
we absolutely have. And the most exciting thing, or one of the most exciting things that is happening musically now, there's a new Electric Hippies record.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
okay, fantastic.
I've had 2 trips to the States, and it's just like old times, man. It'd been 26 years since we'd written together. I got there with my guitar. Not that I needed to take a guitar, but I love my little beastie here. And we sat down and we looked at each other and we just wrote a song, and we recorded it. We wrote another one, recorded it, and it's so beautiful. And so I left with it was pretty much done. Justin just had to do some of his vocals, and the songs are starting to come back now. So good.
Exciting. That's awesome. That's awesome. I actually saw you play in Noiseworks at By the Sea down in Wollongong, which was like January last year. Yeah. And on that lineup, I mean, I'm a rock guy. I was there for Baby Animals, Screaming Jets, Living End, and I walked away going, "Fuck me, Noiseworks just stole that show."
It's a powerful band.
It was so good. It was you guys blew me away at how good it was.
It's a funny thing. I mean, John's what a singer. Yeah. What a voice. Yeah.
When you look up Steve Balbi on Spotify, there are tracks from your albums, a few singles that you've put out, I think, last year. And there's one interesting standout. Tell me about the Fox cricket theme.
Oh, man, I am so proud of that. I am the biggest cricket tragic on the fucking planet. I will watch every ball of a test match. I'll even watch the lunch break, you know. Don't ask me to produce anything during that time. Oh, well, I do, but I do it at night. You know, if I'm or whatever, I just make my days work so I can watch cricket. I just love the sport, you know. Back in the bad days when I was really alone and was using and the whole heroin thing was happening, cricket was all I had, you know. It was just such a great companion. And anyway, I sort of I played a charity event for a wonderful charity called Gotcha for Life, Gus Warland.
Yep.
You know, what an amazing dude he is. And on that bill was Six and Out. Now, I hadn't met Brett Lee or Gavin Robertson, any of those guys, Shane Lee. But I was really excited because I was thinking, we're going to be in the same band room together. I'm going to actually get to meet these guys, you know. And as it turned out, we were in the band room, but they had a table at the event. So, I knew they were about to go on, and I thought, I'm just going to go and hang around backstage. I was total sort of fanboy, you know. And Gavin Robertson comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Balbi, Gavin Robertson, lovely to meet you." And I've gone, fuck, I'm in here. Next thing you know, Binger comes over and goes, "Oh, Balbi, great to meet you." And I've gone, "Oh, yeah, it's nice to meet you too." And that was it. And then I realised that I found out that night because a guy called Buzzard plays in the band. He runs Fox Cricket and does for KO. And got in conversation and I'd realised that Fox had bought the Test cricket rights, and I've gone straight to the music. I thought that Channel 9 Wide World of Sport theme, did that come across and they couldn't get the rights for that? I've gone, okay. So I knew they were looking for a new theme. I literally, the next day, I said to myself on the way home, if anyone's going to write the theme for test match cricket in Australia, it's going to be me. Yeah. So I went to the studio, I sat there and I thought, I'd heard whispers that they want to modernise the whole thing. And I thought, when I see Australia and England come onto the pitch face to face, I don't want to be hearing some modern, I want to hear a call to arms. I want it, it's gladiator stuff. It's sort of war, you know. And so the first thing that came to my mind was ba 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 ba. So I wrote this. You know, I'm not classically trained. I can't read music, but I got my samples out and I created this sort of orchestral piece of music that was a bit of a fanfare, call to arms. And I recorded it and I sent it off. And they said, "Thank you very much." And I didn't hear much back. Apart from the fact that middle management were looking all around the country. They went to all the different production houses for pictures and that they were looking at maybe Great Southern Land. Now, I think that's such an iconic, wonderful song. I mean, I couldn't speak more highly of that song, but not for test match cricket. Not when I don't want to be hearing Great Southern Land, fuck that. Anyway, after about 8 months, and the test match was about 4 weeks from starting, Steve, the big guy from Fox, came in and said, "What have we got?" He chose mine. So
there it is.
My contribution to the test match cricket. Oh. And then I formed some great friendships with those boys, you know. So it's been good.
I was going to ask, if you weren't doing music, what would you be doing for a career? But you answered that in the other interview, and you said you'd be a wicketkeeper.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think I was good enough. So, I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably, probably paint houses or something, you know. I've got the zip skills, apart from music. You know, I pick my fight well. I think,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And having become friends with Brett Lee, have you ever like gone in the nets with him? Have you ever faced him? Or
Yeah, well,
anything like that, or-
you know, we've been very fortunate. We've become very good friends, and he coached my son, and yeah, been to the nets. I haven't had the opportunity to face a bouncer to him yet, but that's on the cards.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit the motherfucker so hard. It's going to be my first and only 6. Binger.
Please have me there to film that. You also mentioned that you'd written a song with Binger. Did that ever get recorded?
Yeah, well, we've got that. I mean, you know, yeah, it's demoed. Yeah, well, it's more than demoed. It's sort of in the makings. We're just sort of trying to find a reason to do it. It doesn't need to be a reason, but you know, I think we'd like to sort of put it out at some stage. But you know, I guess just waiting for the right opportunity.
Yeah.
I wrote a great song with Gavin Robertson as well when Shane Warne died. It's a beautiful song. I don't know if that's out. I should put it out there because it is really worth checking out. We sort of tried to we made it as an offering for the big ceremony, but you know they had another agenda. It didn't quite happen, but yeah.
You enlisted the help of George Ellis and the Sydney Symphony to record that, the Fox cricket thing. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And you worked again with the SSO when you did the Bowie show recently, or not that long ago in Sydney?
I don't know that it was officially the Sydney Symph, but players that do play. George generally pulls together, you know, different players. Yeah, so it's not really Sydney Symph, but a lot of them do play there. George tends to pick all the pretty girls.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, bad man, Mr. Ellis. No, in all fairness, you know, he's a real showbiz guy, you know. He gets what people want to see, and we all love looking at a, you know, beautiful woman behind a cello. There's something just so sensual and beautiful about that. And, but they've got to play, you know, and he's found the beautiful creatures that play these instruments so well.
They've got it all. So, well, tell me, as a big Bowie fan, how was it doing the Bowie show? And also, tell me about the Hours sessions.
Yeah, that stuff was on the hours, wasn't it? Yeah. The Bowie thing for me, it feels like I don't mean to sound, I don't know if this come across right, but it feels like a birthright. I feel like I'm supposed to sing those songs on occasions. Not for any kind of ownership or anything like that, but I fit in it. I get it. My voice sits in it. I you know, adore the music. So, you know, it's always a pleasure. Plus, you know, generally when we do Ziggy, you know, with Iota and Bryden and Duffer, they're beautiful people. We have so much fun. You know, we dress up and it's just such a laugh, you know. The band, Jack Housen, Dario, you know, Pete Drummond, or, you know, the band's incredible. So we do a really good job of it. In fact, I went to see the Illumini band at the State Theatre. They came out and basically do a Bowie set without Bowie, and they had a few different singers. I reckon our show is far better. Yeah. I reckon our band was better for sure. I won't say the singers were better, but I think we were. Yeah. As a show, yeah, I'd put it up back to back any day.
So we're going to see it again?
Well, we just recently did it at the State Theatre with an orchestra. I think we all enjoy it too much to not do again. So yeah, but you know, it's not something that's. It's sort of like I think we do it because we all love it so much, and it's not sort of like let's get on the road and make a lot of money and do all. It's not that kind of thing. It's just we do it because we love it. And you know, the promoter Mark Kristowski, Empire Touring, he does it for the same reasons. You know, he can't be making that much money with an orchestra show at the State Theatre. I've done the maths, you know. Yeah. But he does it because he loves it. And I love that about him. He can't always do things just for money.
Yeah, absolutely.
The hours sessions, though.
Yes.
Yes. Well, after I was doing. I did most of the vocals on Moulin Rouge, because when you're doing a musical, you need, they shoot to the music. So a lot of the singers hadn't done their parts. We just put the music together, and I sang pretty much all of it. And the singers, the actors that could sing went over my bits, but the ones that couldn't, my bits stayed. And there was a lot of character voices in there. All those hours of watching Mel Brooks, Bugs Bunny cartoons paid off, Cause so during that process, I worked with a producer called Marius de Vries, who'd produced Bjork and U2, and David Bowie had sent him some stuff to produce, two or three songs, I think it was. And he invited me to help him put it together. So I did a lot of the vocal arrangements, as in backing vocals and all the harmonies and all that on the Bowie stuff. So, one of my finest memories in studio was a moment of standing in the booth going, "Excuse me, Marius, could you turn David down in the cans, please?" It was great singing harmony with David Bowie, and it did sound great. It sounded just blended so beautifully. And
so were you in the studio with him at the time?
David Bowie wasn't there, no.
Right, okay.
I had met David Bowie, but he wasn't there during the sessions, no. We sent him, and he sent me a message saying how wonderful it sounded, so it was really great.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Something else you've been involved with, which I thought was quite interesting, the eye-controlled technology called Atmosphere. Tell me about that.
There's an incredible dude called Dr. Jordan Newen. You just Google him. An amazing young man. He had a bad swimming pool accident when he was a kid and broke his neck. And his dad was a scientist, and he grew up with a that kind of scientific engineering kind of headspace, and devoted his life to creating technology for disabled people. And I've got this fan, a girl called Jess Irwin, comes to all my shows. And there was one time, I'm not sure how Doc got in touch with Jess, but they were at a show together of mine. And Doc sort of looked at Jess and said, "You'd love to do that, wouldn't you?" And, Jess got really bad cerebral palsy, can't talk. But she said yes. And he set himself a task to sort of create an instrument that she could play. Now, she can't use her hands. She she writes very slowly, on types. So, you're not going to be able to play an instrument doing that. So he created a sampler. So, I've got this keyboard here. I can pull up a drum sound and I can go, right? So he created a sampler that she could trigger with eye recognition. So it was basically the first stages of it, and what we were using. I could deconstruct one of my songs. I could just say it was a four chord song. I could get one piano chord, the second piano chord, blah. I could give her the files, and she could arrange them in a pie chart, and there'd be a few different pie charts that she could draw up. And so she'd go look at one piece of the pie, and it'd be the A chord. Next one would be the C chord, and play the progression. So in essence, she could be my piano player, and it would quantize itself. So she just had to hit it before the beat, and it would play in time. Absolute genius. And so we did shows. We've played some big audiences doing that stuff. We did a big Telstra conference. I think it was about 2,000 people, and some big shows. I mean, we've done little pub gigs as well. We've only sort of got 3 or 4 songs we can do, but it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Sounds it.
Yeah.
Is there video of that around?
Yeah. Look up Atmosphere. Dr. Jordan Newen. Psychonetic is his company. But the dude didn't stop there. He's gone and He may have been working on it at the same time or prior to, but he's created wheelchairs that you can drive with eye recognition. He's created vehicles that you can drive with eye recognition technology. The guy is insane.
Amazing, amazing. All right. There are a lot of factors. Well, talking about shows, I mean, and that would have been amazing to do those shows with Jess, I'm sure. There are a lot of factors that can make a show great. Big crowd, intimate venue, or just that it's flowing through you at the time. Any massive standout shows in your career?
Not really. You know, people expect you to sort of say, you know, I remember, you know, and the Hippies got really massive. It was starting to really get big in Germany, and, you know, playing at Rock am Ring in Munich, you know, 60,000 people. People would expect you to say that was the best show, but, you know, once you get over 1,000 people, it's sort of all the same, really. To me, it becomes. I think the greatest shows are sort of like the Opera House on the 24th. I mean, that, you know, that 300-seater where you're just there, and I have the space to be able to. I love doing, you know, like shows where I can talk to people, and I can really get into a bit of storytelling, and I love the intimacy of it, you know. Every show's different, you know. If I do My Sex, you know, they're not my songs, but I love singing them. I resonate with them, and my job is more of an entertainer, actor, than a songwriter. And I've been blessed with this ability to compartmentalize who I am. You know, I can sit down and have banter watching the Olympics archery with my son and have the funniest time, and then go, hey man, you know,
go clean your room.
You know, I can do this in my life. And, you know, so, gosh, I mean, every show is such a privilege. You know, I think the important thing is, I reckon if you asked me this 30 years ago, I would have said Rock am Ring, 60,000 people. You know why? So you'd think I was great. You know? So you'd love me, you know? I realised when I got clean that music's a gift, and my job is to give it, not to be loved, but to love you and to give it to you for free. So, for free? I don't think I meant that. I don't mind getting paid for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Gotta eat.
But you know what I mean. And it really turned playing music for people around for me. It made every moment valuable because I was giving, I wasn't taking. And so every show is a privilege.
All right, Steve, let's dust off the baggy old bass player cap. And we're going to talk bass for a bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
So what was your first bass?
My first bass was, my dad used to be a drummer when he was young, and being a Maltese dude, he met my mum, and they didn't, you know, he got a job, you know. And he showed some interest in playing some music. Now, I was sort of still just playing guitar, but I was starting to play a little bit of bass with my mates, as I said, on just using an electric guitar, and I thought, gee, it'd be good to have a bass around. So I bought my dad this really bad Beatle bass copy. And
a Hofner copy?
It wasn't even a Hofner, it was a violin-shaped bass, and it had a little kind of like violin headstock. I bought it from I remember a hock shop down in Central, and so I used that, but it wasn't very good. So I think the first proper bass I got was when, the Music Man, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I've seen you playing that most throughout your Noiseworks time, the Music Man.
That's the only bass I played in Noiseworks. It's the only bass I ever owned. I wasn't really interested in them. You know, because of the delay thing, you know, I'll show you later how to do that. It's really the only bass that it works on because it's got that really brittle top end. And, you know, you hit the octave and top end up. I even would hit, if I'm using the Ampeg, you know, hit the high end button and just get this chicka chicka chicka. And it's like the chicka 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 part was as important, nearly more important than the low end of it. Yeah. And so I use that all through Noiseworks. And it's funny, I've got some beautiful basses in the studio now that I can't use any other bass in Noiseworks. It's got to be the Music Man, or it doesn't sound like Noiseworks.
Do you use other basses for your music?
I never used the Music Man for my stuff.
No, right.
I used it for the Hippies' first record because that's all I had. But since then, I don't think I've ever used it on a recording since.
What's your favourite for your music?
I don't have a favourite. Yeah. You know, I don't have all these guitars because I like buying guitars. I'm a producer, so if I hear, you know, 60s, pull out the Mustang with the mute flatties on it, and gives me the sound I want. If I, you know, so I've got a bass for all sort of
occasions,
purposes. Yeah, you know, I've got that. I do have a decent Hofner there, and you know, some beautiful vintage guitars and
jazz over here.
Yeah, the 75 jazz, and that I'm going to give him a plug because Gary Beers.
Yep.
Gary Beers, GG Basses. He's got he's made a brand of bass that is just divine. He gave me one to play and to hang on to, and he's going to make me one. Sort of precision. He's designed the pickup. He's been working on it for about 14 years. It does all this technical stuff. I can't explain that part of it, but go online and check them out. It's really effective. Such a beautiful tool. So even to record. Yeah, good work, Gary.
Yeah. I have seen some of the videos of him explaining it, and
yeah, they've got one up there. Check it out.
Awesome, fantastic. So you mentioned octave. What else? And delays, and what does your pedal board look like when you're playing bass?
Well, you know, back in the day, I guess I just had those three pedals. I had a chorus as well.
Yeah, compressor.
Yeah.
Compressor.
The compressor was really important especially for that, the jigger. We used to call it the jigger, you know, so jigger. It was really important I think I'd have the delay into the octave into the compressor. Yep. So just squish it all together. And it's super effective vibe. Sounds like a sequencer. I think part of it came up because, you know, in that mid-'80s or early '80s, sequencers started coming in, drum machines started coming in. We all got paranoid we'd lose our jobs, you know. So I thought, how can I sound like a sequencer?
You had bands like Pseudo Echo who were doing a lot on, you know, bass lines on their keys and stuff like that around
That's
that
right.
time.
And so I you know, it was a good moment. That was quite a cool thing. But everyone thought I was this really fast-fingered bass player going digga 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 digga, you know. Yeah. And I've seen guys even in John Stevens' band trying to play sixteenths.
Yeah.
It's like, I reckon Jacko would have a hard time doing that for that long, like, you know. And really the part's just dum 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 dum.
Oh wow.
It's just so dumb,
delay. Wow. There you go.
Dumb shit.
Who would have thought? How do you record bass here in the studio?
Oh, once again, the song art tells me how it wants to be recorded, you know. I got lots of great different pre's, you know. I've got amps down the booth there, so been getting back into amp recording. You know, one of the best bass sounds, you know, I remember I've been playing guitar and I thought, I'll just work on a bass part, and I plugged into the guitar, and it was just my Vox AC30 anniversary, the white Vox, point-to-point wide, best bass sound.
Yeah, right.
Incredible. For that particular moment, really present. With the Hippies, using the Music Man, I put a whole heap of, you know, Chuck Super Wipes. That's what I used to use back in the day. you chuck super white under the strings and to mute it. And then I'd take a DI and I'd split it into a Vox wah, and I'd have it, the filter on the sort of setting, and then a direct, either into an amp or direct into a pre, and mix that up. So if you listen to the Electric Hippies recordings, you'll clearly hear a conk, conk, conk. It's sort of that wah tone, which I really love.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I like to sort of, you know,
Experiment.
yeah, I don't have a routine. I think as soon as I get into a routine, I might as well give up.
Yeah. That's what being a producer's about, right? Yeah. That's the next level. Yeah. What makes someone a great bass player?
Playing for the song. Yeah, 100%. You know, there's people that can just, everything's valid, and I don't know his name, a local guy, Martinez, the Martinez family. The bass player, unbelievable. It's astounding what this guy can do. But he probably wouldn't work in my band.
Yeah.
Just playing the song. I mean, I think some of the greatest, bass players for that is Paul McCartney, Greenwood from Radiohead, and I've got to say, Paddy Cornwell from Sticky Fingers. What a great song bass player that dude is. And there's hundreds of thousands of them, but it's not always about keeping it simple. Keeping out of the way is good, but people can get really clever and still enhance the song. As soon as it's taking the focus away when it's not necessary, I think you might be getting up your own.
Yeah. And I guess you're kind of touching on it there, but what advice would you give to aspiring bass players?
Realize your power. Realize the power in, playing a root note to being able to make something feel more emotional, and don't get in the way of the singer.
Awesome. What else is on your musical bucket list?
Okay, my next record, I've got this sort of a bits and pieces record I'm going to put out sort of after this one. But what's on my bucket list is I've got a collection of songs, and I would like to go into the studio with a band, sit around, work on the songs, and go, let's put it down, just like old days. I want to record as an ensemble again, but not record as an ensemble to bring it back and fix it, to record as an ensemble and keep it, And I don't want to do it really quick. Oh, we did it in a day. I don't want to do that. I want to spend time and make it fucking really good. Look, let's come back tomorrow. We'll attack this one again, or, not that'll do. It's like, that was good. I don't want, that's on my bucket list, and I will do that. Another thing I would love to do is finish the material I've been working on with Dylan Frost and the Sticky Fingers, for his solo record. It's a bunch of songs I've been working on with him. I'd love to finish that. I feel so blessed to be doing what I do, and I've achieved so much personally, but I know the one regret I'll have when I do die is that I haven't made all the records that I want to make. There's so many people I'd love to work with. There's so many things I would love to do. But, it's good trying to get there.
Absolutely. So, and we're going to run through touch, but otherwise, thank you so much for chatting with me. This has been amazing. Really appreciate your time.
No worries. And when I say I'm not a bass player, I love playing bass. I absolutely adore the instrument. I think it has got an amazing power, you know, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Awesome. Let's set it up for touch. Yeah.